And last, I have Kyle Long. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you. Well, I'm not quite as prepared as the other speakers, but I'll do my best. I have two children in USD 437, one at the high school and one at the middle school. Seems that we have a little bit of pushback on the mask mandate stuff. I know that the CDC has said that it wants to keep this tool in its toolkit for the future, so I suspect it will be back. And I suspect it to progress beyond masks to vaccines and other measures. But since people have already discussed the mask mandates themselves, I thought I would inform the school board and the other parents here how you can expect your child to be treated if they refuse. Because both of my children refused. One is 13 and one is 16. My 13-year-old son attends the middle school. I will not give you his name. I will not give the names of anybody else because the board has requested that. He refused to wear a mask and was strongly encouraged to go home, to not attend school. I refused to take him out of school because those are excused absences and that could be considered truancy after a time. So I sent him into school and I said, you're going to have to figure something out. So they put him in the ISS room. The ISS room has rules that he was forced to abide by. Those rules include that you will sit in your seat, you will not stand up, you will not talk, you will not turn your head. If you are caught speaking, before I get to that, you will not ask to go to the bathroom. You will not ask to go get water. You will not bring food. You will not bring water. If you are caught speaking, you lose one of your 2 bathroom breaks for the day.
Mr. Long, can I just ask you to speak into the microphone so we can hear you?
My apologies.
You're fine.
I have tried to handle this with the amount of dignity and respect that I am still capable of at this point. My daughter has been told by the officer that's in the room right now that if she were his daughter, he would be deeply disappointed in her.
Mr. Long, I want to remind you we're not here to point fingers and those types of things. I understand you didn't use a name. I would ask you if, I know Dr. McWilliams would be willing to meet with you, so
I'm certain, but to some degree, if I may, this is for the people on the other end of that camera and in this room, as much as it is for you.
I understand, I hear some frustration, I understand that, but I just want to keep your comments so that we,
Understood. I'll keep them ambiguous to the extent that I can.
Thank you.
The Every Student Succeeds Act of 1974 guarantees that every child be given an education, quote, without fear or favor, an equal education. And in Plyler versus Doe, which was a Supreme Court case, it was determined that under the 14th Amendment, an individual in schools cannot be denied an education if that school is a public school that provides a free education to other students. So it is federal law that my son receive an education, and while sitting in the ISS room unable to speak, not able to ask questions, not able to go to the bathroom, he didn't. When they sent my daughter home and suspended her for refusal to wear a mask, she did not receive an education either for months. This is unacceptable. It goes beyond unacceptable, actually, because any attempt I have made to communicate with the school has been met with pushback. And today, my son has been deemed a threat. I received a threat assessment screening form. I did not receive it because it was given to me. I received it because I demanded it. He's been deemed a threat for, quote, his interest in firearms. He's a 13-year-old boy. Likes guns. Guns are cool. He does not make threats. In fact, in this form it states specifically, and I quote, no specific threat. Screening done due to multiple incidents where Michael, quote, displayed interest to weapons, end quote. When asked who the threat was made against in this form, quote, these are non-applicable as none of the incidents involved a conflict with any other individuals. And yet he has now been deemed a threat. I've been informed by I won't say a name, by one of the principals at the middle school that should this threat occur again, More harsh actions will be taken, though not specifically determined. I assume we'll be treating him basically as a school shooter from then on, so that's fun. It's interesting that this occurred the day he was let out of his imprisonment in the ISS room and returned to class. Very interesting. Strange timing, being that he is the only student that I'm aware of, and I've asked, at Washburn Rural Middle School who took a stand on this and refused to wear a mask. As far as I'm concerned, my 13-year-old son is the only real man in that building. Because he stood for what he believed in, even unto the point of being, I mean, he was in tears at times, didn't want to go to school, didn't want to sit for 8 uninterrupted hours in what is essentially a cell. Does anybody have any questions?
So, Mr. Long, we're well past the 5 minutes, so I'll just ask if anyone has any questions. I appreciate you coming before the board this evening. I know Dr. McWilliams would be happy to meet with you. I would be happy to meet with you as well, and I mean that sincerely. So appreciate you coming.
I'm certainly welcoming of any of that. May I ask you guys one question before I step away from the podium? Were any of you aware of this?
Mr. Long, we don't stand for questions. I appreciate you coming before us. Let's talk after either this meeting or another time, okay? I appreciate it.
Fair enough.